Floss Tube, and welcome back to Fairy Tales and French Knots. I'm Erin, and this is my channel about cross-stitch, where I talk for long enough to make my family wonder what I'm up to, but short enough that you can watch me on your lunch break. So it's been a while since I've been here. I think it's been about a month, probably longer, since I've posted anything. So I've got some substantial content, probably still less than 30 minutes. We'll see. But, well, let's get started. I've got some stash, I've got some progress, I've got some finishes to show off, I've got a giveaway to do, so let's get to it. First of all, and I just thought this was funny, I'm going to throw this out there for all of you floss tubaholics who know all the floss tubers from everywhere. I've been working on Halloween Parcheesi, which is a piece by the Primitive Needle. I don't have it out to show tonight because I haven't made any real significant progress on it. And part of the reason I haven't is that I'm running low on one of the flosses, and it is Weeks Dye Works Charcoal. And I was at work, and I was thinking about this, and I wanted to place an order to get the floss, but I wanted to make sure that I had the right floss, and I didn't have my to be purchased list with me. So I thought there's got to be somewhere out there where someone has posted the called for flosses for this design. So I went looking. Like, I know somebody has done Halloween Parcheesi because I've seen it on the wall behind another floss tuber. So I know if I keep digging, I will find it. So, I'm a librarian. I can find things. So I start Googling and, Halloween Parcheesi, floss, weeks, colors, trying to figure this out. I ended up on an old blog of a very well-known stitcher and floss tuber. And in 2007, in this blog, this floss tuber said things like, I have about a half a dozen whips plus 3 or 4 UFOs. And I just laughed and laughed because I too remember those days when I had 1 or 2 things in progress and something at the framers, and that was all. That was all. There was no need for a database to organize my flosses or a spreadsheet full of pattern names. I have all those things now. Yes. I'm not going to name names here. You're welcome to take a guess. And if that floss tuber is watching this and would like to out themselves, they're welcome to do so. But I'm not naming names. We'll just leave it at that. Right? So let's talk about what I have been doing to make dents in my own pile of whips and UFOs and other assorted things. We'll start with my Whip Go progress for last month, for the month of March. I worked on Forget Me Not by the Victorian Motto Sampler Shop. And here it is. I did a couple of these little things, little light blue flowers. I was working down in this band of pink and blue. It's getting there. I can see this one getting done by the end of the year if I can keep at it. So that's the plan right now for that one. I really enjoy working on it. The fabric is a Color and Cotton limited edition, so it doesn't have a name. But it fits perfectly on my 11 by 11 Q-snap. As you can see, it's all there. So I'll just leave it on the snap and hopefully get it done. Maybe I'll take it to StitchCon in June and get it done there so I can ring the bell. We'll see. So there's Forget Me Not. As I said, the other piece I worked on, because holiday was my other call for March, I worked on Halloween Parcheesi for a little bit, and then I worked on Father Christmas Village. I didn't make enough progress on either of those to really show them. it is what it is. They'll get done someday. So the calls for April for me were actually holiday again. So like I said, maybe I'll get Halloween Parcheesi done this month. We'll see. And the other one was aquatic. So for aquatic, I pulled out my Owl Forest embroidery Atlantis. And I'm sure I've mentioned before, this was on a freebie table, and it contained the floss remnants. So I thought if I did it on 40 count over 2 with 1 thread, I might get by and have enough to finish it with the leftovers. I'm not sure that I will. And I went out to the Owl Forest Facebook group, and a lovely woman there sent me some of her extra flosses, but you can still tell they're from a different dye lot than the ones I started with. So I'm working on it, on how to kind of patch it in so it's not too obvious. Because it's a Quaker design, the differences in color don't show as much. It's not like, stitching a Mirabilia's half her face in one dye lot and the other half in another, and it looking really strange. But anyway, this is where I am with this. I was working on the house and this little, I think it's going to be a water fountain over here. And that's where I'm running out of that darker color. I think it was called sea foam or sea green or something like that. And again, I do have some that was given to me to try and patch in there. Like I said, I'm pretty good at kind of fussy cutting floss and putting it together in such a way that you can't really tell what I've done. Other than stitch, which is what I should be doing. So that's my Whip Go plan for the rest of this month. To work on that. And again, back to the holiday pieces. So that is my Whip Go progress. In terms of finishes, I have 3 fully finished objects to show. They're all smalls. And I'm coming to the point where I have to admit that I really like smalls. I don't know why. They always seem highly impractical unless you do ornaments and have a tree and put them on said tree. But I don't always like ornament things. So I end up with little tiny drums and little tiny flat folds and little box toppers. Someday they're going to end up in an antique store if I'm lucky. Because, as I've said before on this channel, there is no way that my descendants are going to want all of the things that I've made. It's just not realistic. I hope they pick a few things they like, but, I certainly won't come back and haunt them for getting rid of all the flat folds and weird little things I've made over the years. So let's just hope they don't end up in the landfill, right? Anyway, my finishes, right? The first one is kind of old. It is a kit from Ink Circles called Immaculate Heart. And it was charted with silks from Dragonfly Floss or Dragonfly Stitches. I don't know exactly. I didn't like the silk. So, and it's not that I don't like silk overall. I just did not like those silks. They were too chunky and they kept untwisting on me, and it was frustrating as all get out. So I swapped them out with, there's 2 Vicky Clayton colors, one of Ship's Manners silks in here, and a Madeira. So here is Immaculate Heart. The blue and brown for the stag is done with Vicky Clayton. The red is also a Vicky Clayton, and they were both from her old detritus bags, so they don't have names. The yellow is from Ship's Manor, and it was called Lamplight. And then the green is a Madeira silk that it had a number. It doesn't have a color. So yeah, it all worked together really well, and it's pretty true to the kit flosses. So I like it. The back of my flat fold is this fabric with little dragonflies. And what's really cool about this fabric, I discovered when I ironed it, the little dots, when they get exposed to light or if they get some heat on them, will glow in the dark. So yeah, super cute. Inside is this orangey pink fabric that kind of plays off the reds in the pattern. So that was all finished. After I got done with that, I went into my stash of UFOs and I found this, which is by Keslin's. And it was a round robin kit from Celebration of Needlework in 2013. It's on 28 count opalescent over 1. It is DMC floss, so that made it a little bit more tolerable. And yet, I did not enjoy stitching this one. It's lovely. It has 1 color of DMC burgundy and 2 of green. I feel like Elmo. Near, far. Sorry. Sesame Street moment. Yeah, it was a little fiddly to assemble, and if you look at the picture, there's like a hanging loop on the top. I left that off because it's a pin cushion. It's got a couple stacked pieces of batting in there, and I just don't like the idea of hanging a pin cushion. I'm not sure how that would work, where I would hang it from. So I made it just a little flat. I put some little pins in the top because they're pretty and they hide my cording. This one, the model picture has cording, but it was not included in the kit. So I made my own, put it together. These were fiddly as all heck, those little things, because they're done with fabric. I thought they were done with ribbon. They're not. I tried ribbon. It didn't work. So it was a learning process and not one that I care to repeat. But done, pretty great. My third finish, I actually just finished last night. And this is from the Happiness is Homemade cookbook from 2025 that is limited edition, sold at Nashville every year. And I did the Blue Flowers Mushroom Squirrel. I showed this off at the Lindy Stitches Nash Stash Startathon, and it was in the Have You Tried Anything from This cookbook or stitched anything from the Nashville releases little on stage portion of the night on Saturday night. And I think Jason thought that mushroom squirrel was one of the recipes. Sorry, Jason, it is not. It is this little guy. Little mushroom squirrel, little squirrel out foraging for shrooms. And I finished it as a little stand-up. It's got a drapery weight in the bottom, so he sits nice and flat. The fabric on the back, like this, like that. And because I'm extra, give me a minute. Gotta be extra. There he is. He has a little forest with little tiny mushrooms and little trees. Now, the trees, I bought these sticks. They came in a pre-cut little mesh bag of holiday decor craft supplies. I want to say Hobby Lobby, back before I knew that Hobby Lobby was not a place I cared to shop. So I'm sure you can find them other places, or you could go out in your backyard and chop some off a tree. I don't care. I'm not going to tell. And then as I was looking at it and putting it together, I wanted it to look like trees. So I went out in my backyard, and we've had some windstorms lately, and we have birch trees. Birch trees are horrible, dirty little trees that blow little tiny sticks off all the time. Well, I put those sticks to good use, because here they are. They have become branches on my little tiny trees. I went out, I got some, I got a drill bit, the tiniest drill bit I could find for the power drill, drilled holes in the stick, glued them in, and now they are branches on a tiny tree for a squirrel who's out picking up mushrooms. These two little beads came from Joanne Fabrics. No more Joanne's. But yes, perfect. I think he's so cute. Love it. So those are my finishes. The other thing I've been doing, let's talk briefly about something kind of stash tangentially related to stash. Joann's. I've been in Joann's a couple times since the closing was announced. I can see where they're getting down to the end of the warehouse inventory at this point. The store in our area is one of the bigger ones. I believe it was one of the ones originally not slated to close until the final sale happened. And they've been getting in, truckloads of things from the warehouse. The floss, anything stitch related is pretty much gone. The last time I was in there, they did have a load of floss, but it was like maybe 7 or 8 colors and just tons of those 7 or 8 colors, but nothing else. So as a good stitcher, I grabbed a handful of those 7 or 8 colors, but there aren't a whole lot, and it was sad. I've made a few runs through their fabric. I've quit since they went to the 2-yard minimum purchase. I don't need 2 yards of most fabrics. I did purchase some, but not a lot. I did get some interfacing because the iron-on, 44F, I think. It's the real lightweight interfacing anyway. They still had just bolts and bolts of that stuff. So I bought 5 yards of it because I can fold it up small, put it in a gallon Ziploc bag, and probably have it for the next decade. I used it for the squirrel, but I needed 2 5x5 squares. So yeah, it'll last me a while. So I got that. I did go through the beading, jewelry making section. That is where the mushrooms on the little squirrel came from. Also, I got some stars. I got some little cat faces because I thought maybe I'd make a scissor fob or something. I have them. I will open my stash box someday and they will be the perfect thing for something. That's my hope. The other thing I was watching the other day was Floss Paper Scissor with Julie and Katherine. And I love Julie's finishing. Her finishing is spot on perfect. And she was talking about putting knobs on things. So I was in the scrapbook section and I found knobs. I don't know what I'll use them for, but I've been inspired by Julie and Katherine to have knobs. I just want to say knobs. Knobs. So I got those. Just the random things that you look at and think, maybe I could use that someday. But they're getting down to even stuff I can't even do that with. Strange garden decor and yarns that I wouldn't use for anything. And again, I'd have to buy giant yardages of various fabrics I don't need. So I think my days of stopping at Joann's after work are pretty much done. Very sad. Let's see. What else have I got going on? I've been working on Dee's 20 Stitches, Stitch for Pride 2025. And this has honestly been one of my favorite stitch-alongs ever. Partly, the stitching is just lovely and interesting. It's a spot motif, so you can stitch it as one big piece, or you can stitch it as many little pieces. The last time I tried to do a multi-part stitch along like this was supposed to be a big sampler released by Ship's Manor, I believe, and it was like the Beautiful Sea, I think, but it was an undersea kind of Quaker style sampler. The results of it are right there. And as you can see, not this big sampler here, but this little thing right here, this little drum, that's what happened the last time I tried to do a big sampler. I had great intentions. I bought the floss pack. I was good to go. I stitched on it for about 3 months and went, bleh, and moved on to something else. And then, you know, I still had the patterns, still had the whip, still had all the fibers and the pattern, and thought, oh yeah, I'll finish it later. Didn't happen. And every time I got it back out and thought, I'm going to work on this, I'd either feel really guilty or I would just look at it and go, ugh, I don't want to work on this. And it's not because it's a bad pattern. It's a lovely pattern. It just, my brain had moved on. So rather than leave it in a project bag forever, I turned it into a drum. Live and learn, right? But having learned that, I don't sign up for mystery stitch-alongs anymore. Until this one. But, this has been a great one for me. It is a spot sampler, and that means each month is its own piece. They can be all stitched on one big piece, but I was, holding off on starting. I did not buy the floss pack for this one, partly because I couldn't. The Canada Post strike meant that there was no way to get it. And then when it was finally available again, I missed the window to purchase and it was all sold out again. So I'm just going through my own flosses and having a good old time with that. I think it's Algae who did the flosses. They are lovely. So it's nothing against the flosses. I just couldn't get them. So I'm using my own not small stash. And what really got me started on it, because I bought it in December. I got the monthly updates and I just put them in a folder on my hard drive. They'll be there when I'm ready. The March design was really wonderful. It's a Chinese inspired design of a dragon on a sword, around a sword, and the historical figure is, I believe, I didn't do all the learning, confession on that one, but the historical figure is a Chinese person who was born female and took on many male characteristics and really challenged the Chinese dynastic patriarchy and wrote some lovely poems. I really liked some of the writings and the translations of their writings. And when I read those, my thought was, ooh, I could stitch the piece and use the poems as the other side of a scrapbook page. And then the idea was born to, rather than stitch and frame or, ornamentify or whatever, all these spot samplers, spot motifs, was to make a scrapbook with them. So I did start with January. Actually, I started by trying to find a scrapbook that made me happy. And I used to be a scrapbooker. I love Creative Memories and their wonderful strap hinge bindings. So I found this 8x8 book, which I like the idea of like a family tree on the cover. So I've got the book to put them all in. And then I started in January with Elagabalus, who was a 14-year-old Roman emperor. Regardless of your gender identity or anything related to that portion of your life, who thinks a 14-year-old would be a good emperor? No. Not me, not my kid, not my husband. I don't know anyone who at 14 I would have put in charge of an empire. But Elagabalus, part of how he became emperor was at the hand of his grandmother. So right there is a bit of a, kind of twist on the gender norms. And Elagabalus may have identified or exhibited some traits of being transgender. We really don't know how he or she referred to themselves. And some of the writings, the historical writings about them, were purposely unflattering. So there's some debate. Historians come down on both sides of it, and this is where the culture and the history and the learning pieces just get me really thinking about how our modern understanding informs older cultures that are gone and can't have a voice of their own. And it's just, I can chase myself in circles in my brain while I'm stitching, which sounds horrible, but honestly is kind of fun for me. So this is Elagabalus. All that for this little piece. And Elagabalus, according to the writings, had these incredibly wild dinner parties, and at least one of them smothered his guests in flower petals. And there is a painting done in the, whenever I think of old times, I think Victorian, but I can't say for sure if it was a Victorian artist, but in those kind of, Maxwell Parrish style romantic paintings, in that painting, Elagabalus is smothering his guests in roses. If you go to the original Latin text, which I took 4 years of Latin, I studied history, so I'm a librarian. I went digging for this. If you go back to the original text, it was violets, according to the author. So he smothered his guests in violets. Either way, I don't want to be smothered in any kind of flower. And I found a floss that is a variegated pink and purple. So it acknowledges both the possible historical fact and the artistic interpretation. I used the pink fabric, again, because of the rose idea that, this is what the place would look like if we're filled with roses. And the other reason I like it is that with Elagabalus stitched in blue on pink fabric, this will be the first page of the scrapbook, and pink and blue are the trans flag colors. So I think it's very appropriate. So that's my Elagabalus, all done. As I said, a pink and purple for the flowers. He is stitched in, I think it was a 6-strand suite I had called Blueberry Pie. I ran out, so then I went with a DMC blend, and the bench is stitched in a DMC brown. I did that because I obviously ran out of my blue. So there's Elagabalus. And then the February motif is Hatshepsut from Egyptian history, who, born female, took on male traits to serve as a pharaoh, and including wearing the always looks like a metal fake beard that you see on pharaohs' mummies and tombs and things. Sarcophagus, not the mummy itself. But yes, I'm stitching their motif in Rami's Summer Sky. Algae used a turquoise because that was about the time in history when turquoise became a thing. So there's my turquoise inspired color, and the ankh I did in a Krynic that has like gold, rose, and blue in it. It's super cool. I think it's sparkly as all get out, and I love it. And as I said to my husband last night, I was stitching bird pants because those look like pants to me. And just have another leg, and I have to finish his hat. If he's got pants, he's got a hat, right? So that will be done, and then I can get on to the one that inspired me to begin with, the Chinese spot motif. So that is absolutely amazing. Dee, I love this stitch along. I hope you keep it going because it's lots of fun. Since I'm talking about Dee, let's talk about, look at my forehead. Let's talk about the giveaway. We Still Go On by These 20 Stitches. And I do not have the floss for this, so you're not winning the floss. There were only 2 of you that entered. And to enter in my last post, you had to use the word dragon in a comment. And I did put it into the random comment picker for 2. It was kind of fun to watch it just go back and forth, back and forth. And the winner is at Autumn Piper 60, who wrote, and I did ask for a funny comment. So, at Autumn Piper 60 wrote, "What did you do today?" my friend asked. "I stitched all day," I replied. "Didn't you feel like going shopping?" she asked. "Nope. I worked all day yesterday and my butt was dragging." That is a great dad joke. I highly appreciate that. So, at Autumn Piper 60, I don't know if your name is Autumn or if you just enjoy playing Scottish musical instruments in October. Either way, you are the winner. So I will put my email address in the comment box below, and you can send me an email and I will get this in the mail to you. Congratulations. All right. I have talked for 31 minutes according to the timer on my phone, and I still haven't shown you my stash. So let's do that, and then we can all get on with our day. Other than my knobs from Joann's, I did order from the Nashville pattern release, and I tried to order from a couple different small shops. I ordered from Keepsakes, I ordered from Stitch New England, and I had a small order from Abby Topknot. So, from Stitch New England, I picked up the Happiness is Homemade cookbook, and that is where I found the mushroom squirrel pattern. There's some really great little patterns in here, and I really like the recipes too, because they're not like, crazy, need some ingredient that I can only find at a specialty grocery store and I'll never use again kind of things. I think my personal favorite in terms of name was called Chicken What the Hell. So if you're offended, sorry, but that's the name of the recipe, and it's basically like chicken and stuffing mix and canned soup. And I'm sure, it's loaded with sodium and not good for you at all, but I'll bet it tastes delicious, and I can throw it together and put it in the oven and there's dinner. So I like those kind of recipes at this point in my life. So there's that. I did get the Night Garden thread palette, and I got these from Stitch New England as well. I love these colors, and that's where all the patterns I bought came from too. From the also from Stitch New England, I got the Artsy Housewife, All the Stars. And then from Keepsakes, I got the Tiny Modernist, Twilight Moon, and Ink Circles, Forget-Me-Nots. And from Abby Topknot Stitcher, I got, and it's not in my pile of things, I think it's in the drawer with all my other floss boards. I got the half moon with the 4 holes for the flosses, because there's no way you need that entire skein of any of those for any of those patterns. So you could cut a couple lengths, put them on the thread board, and put that with the pattern. And for when I finally get around to starting one of those, or 2, 3, I decided I wanted a project bag. And yes, I could have made my own. I didn't want to. So I found one on Etsy and I ordered it, and it's absolutely lovely. This is, I think it's about a 9 by 11, so it's small, but when it's open, pattern fits right in there. I think even the larger pattern will fit in pretty easily. Oh no, maybe not. Oh, it will. I just have to fiddle with it around the zipper a little bit. So there's the Ink Circles one fits in there too. Still fits. And I think it will hold like a 4x4 Q-snap with my fabric on it, so I can put everything right in there, have it all good to go. And this is from She's So Sassy on Etsy. And she doesn't have a big inventory. I actually put into the Etsy search Secret Garden Project Bag, and I got her, no, Night Garden Project Bag. And I got this one, which is Old Garden, was on like page 3 or 4 of my search results. And I decided to not order off the first page of results because I know that Etsy and Google and eBay and everybody and their brother does relevancy ranking, and I wanted to give some business to a smaller shop that doesn't always come up in the top search results. So, you know, no offense to those shops that do, because they make good products and lots of people buy them. I just wanted to give somebody else some business. So I'm going to link her shop. She was a lovely woman to work with. She has a very small inventory. It's more of a, you know, make one and list it kind of thing than a mass-produced kind of stuff. And she does do custom orders with embroidery, so you can get an embroidered project bag. I don't know what they're like because I didn't order one, but they had some pretty nice reviews. So yeah, here's the one I got, which is pieced. The back is not. It's just a solid piece of fabric. But it's absolutely perfect for what I wanted. So winning. And that's all I have for today. Stay safe, keep stitching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.